And
Yeah.
that Austin Kleon quote,
Yep.
which I like, which is, it doesn't matter if it's great, just do it. No, that's not it. Doesn't matter if it's great. What is that friggin' quote? How do you like my hair?
Well, it's looking good.
It is looking
Looks
good.
like you haven't quite styled it today, I'd say, but
No.
the new haircut is.
I have styled it
Oh.
by not styling it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is what I like about it. You just get up and it's done, sort of.
Hmm.
But what I have noticed is,
Well, it looks like you've achieved it.
well, because I saw my reflection in our window when I was outside having a mandarin.
Mhm.
Mandarin. And I thought, oh, hair's looking good. But I know from experience that if I actually now look in a mirror, I'll be like, oh, not as good as I thought. So I think I have a theory that your hair always looks better in the reflection of a window than in a mirror.
Okay.
Don't you think that's true?
Yeah, probably fair. I mean, it's
And when you
Not as
when you go
clear.
down the street, if you're walking down Burke Street Mall or something, how many people do you see looking at themselves in the mirror and trying to make it look like they're not looking at themselves?
yeah.
No, not in the mirror, in a shop window.
Yeah. I definitely.
Especially if they go past one where it's a
Yeah.
dark, it's a dark window, and they go, "Oh, I'm going to get a good
look.
reflection
Yep.
here." I reckon we know that when we look at our reflection in a window,
Mm.
that we're going to get a more favourable impression
Mm.
of ourselves, and it's a little pick me up. It's a little confidence booster.
Really? Because I look at it as
I
like,
reckon.
for me, it's like a quick check. And I don't know if this is a girl thing, but it's like, quick check is, are my clothes like sitting how they should? Like, is everything what's tucked that should be tucked still tucked, and what isn't still not? Or has something gone wrong? Or is my hair looking weird? Like, it's just like a quick overall impression of like, quick check. Is it all as it ought to be?
Mm.
Yeah.
Have
So
you-
I'm definitely not looking for like a pick me up or a
You
boost.
have
It's
to be a
more
very
like,
quick check to check all that stuff out.
no, quick
can you work
glance.
all that
Oh,
out, Lyndon?
100% you can. Yeah. And it's more like a check that I'm not going to embarrass myself by
Yeah.
walking down.
You can't see the details of
Burke
like
Street
if an
Mall.
eyebrow is hair is out of place or something.
No, not quite that detailed, but definitely like, yeah, if your hair's sticking up a bit weird or something.
You've seen that that meme, the meme where it says when you feel the tag on the back of your shirt or whatever, and like in your mind, what's actually there? It's like a massive cockroach in someone's back.
Yeah.
You've seen that? It's like
Yeah.
it's the size of a backpack. That's what you imagine's there when you
Totally.
feel something on your neck.
Yep.
And it's just the
I
tag.
hate that feeling of like, what's that that's
It's
just
so
touched
funny.
me? Oh, yes, it's just my own clothing. Yeah.
Imagine that if you're walking down the street and you're checking just to see whether there's a massive roach on your back.
Wow.
Oh my
Horrendous.
gosh. Okay, cue the music. Welcome to Pain in the Arts, the podcast where the pursuit of meaningful art meets the unpredictable demands of real life. Remember, you can support the show on Patreon for free or become a paid subscriber and have extra love heaped upon you. We were watching Tom Papa the other night. I watched it twice because I watched it and then I said, you need to watch it. And it's his latest special on Netflix.
Very funny man.
He's funny. And I said, you need to watch it because he makes you feel good. He just has a great way of making you feel that you're on the right track and you're all right. What's he say?
You don't
Yes.
need to be following all the latest trends or whatever.
Yes.
Like, yeah, you're doing fine.
You're doing fine. You're doing great. Keep going.
and
know,
your
like-
funny little gussy bodies. He says stuff like that.
But he made a good point, and I'm always saying that comedians often make really good points, that often as an adult, you're hanging on to some criticism you copped as a child and you take it into your adult life.
True.
Like he was saying, if you're really looking forward to going to school, your first year in prep or something, and then you get there and some kid goes, "You smell like ham." And then that stays with you forever. I remember being on school camp and I got, let's say, encouraged by other guys. No, it was tormented. Okay, how would I put this? I got bullied by other guys in the dorm to go speak to Jodie Forsyth and ask her out. And this has stayed with me forever. So I went in there just to get them off my back because I was being harassed so much.
Yeah.
And I thought the only way to end this is to go and ask her out. So I went into her dorm, and unfortunately there was a couple of other girls in there as well. So I can't remember what I said. I can't remember what I said to Jodie Forsyth. But it was something along the lines of, will you go out with me? Which I think about now, what a horrendous, unimaginative, benign line. But I would have been in year 8 or something. So second year high school.
So about 13.
Yeah. Anyway, she told me to go suck a couple of farts. And I'm sure.
What an insult.
I can't believe
Wow.
actually that's harsh now that I think about it.
Where'd she come out with that? Was that like a
I don't know.
something that
I think
people
she's
would
a child
say?
psychologist now, so
Oh, Jodie Forsyth.
shame on you, Jodie.
That's harsh.
I know.
So hang on, child psychologist Jodie Forsyth absolutely has tormented you in your childhood
Yeah.
and made you remember it forever.
I've remembered it forever. So I don't think I take that
Jodie.
into any of my professional life, but it's funny how it stays with you.
Yeah.
But these are right. So anyway, so it got me thinking about confidence
Oh.
and about things that hold you back, which seems to have been a bit of a theme so far on this podcast.
Definitely something we touch on.
There must be
a fair
stuff
bit.
we need to get off our chest.
Well, let's just say I think it's pretty common for
People to be told
people
to
in-
go suck a couple of farts.
No, people in general to struggle with confidence, but artists in particular.
Yeah, true. Well,
So it's never going to be an out of date topic. Let's put it that way.
yeah. Well, when I was contemplating this, I thought, well, actually, this is probably more to do with self-belief. Stop trying to look at my notes. I see you're trying to look and trying to get ahead. Now,
Well, having been reading to Little Birdie upside down and backwards a lot lately, I'm getting good at it again. So
oh yeah, I had to do
Yeah.
that the other night, reading upside down, and I made the mistake of turning the light off.
oh yeah, you got to go do it with the
as
little
well.
dim
And I
light.
thought, oh,
yeah.
actually, I've made this harder than it needs to be. So self-belief and what happens to it over time.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I just came up with 6 questions for you. Take it away.
Oh, great.
All right. So this is it.
Put me on the
So
spot.
what happens to it over time? The self-belief that drove us as adolescents. What happened to it?
Ugh.
Does it dwindle or peter out? Does it get pushed aside or concealed? Is it crowded out by responsibility? Is it always there but means less as we age? Is it something that should be nurtured and checked in from time to time? And then my last question was, does it matter? Take it away, Bree.
Right. Okay. So for all except the last one, yes.
I mean, it is referred to as the confidence of youth.
The confidence of youth.
The confidence
yeah.
of youth and the self-belief is, I don't know if it's one of the same, but it's very similar. So in my youth, my self-belief and ambition came with few distractions. So I instinctively knew what I didn't want to do. And I found a way to shrug them off and to make my way somewhat blindly down a narrow path. I guess I instinctively knew what I wanted to do as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like I knew I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to do a particular job, or I didn't want to go to uni necessarily. I knew what I wanted to do. And then I just was like, well, that's what I'm going to do. And just shut out any other sort of external voices. And that was it. So it was like an adventure.
Yeah. And you did have a lot of confidence in that.
Hey?
You did have a lot of confidence in that. When I first met you, you just knew what you were doing.
Yeah, I knew what I was doing, but I don't think on a day-to-day level I necessarily had a lot of confidence. Like I'm not sure that I had, like I was very aware of that I didn't really know what I was doing, but I knew where I wanted to head.
Yeah.
So, and having self-belief, even then, like it is something that's always it's challenging to maintain. But I just recall when I've been thinking about it this week, I recall it was easier to tap into it than it is now. It's like I think it gets crowded out
Right.
now. But a genuine question was, well, has it changed? Is it still there? Like, is it a current that is still flowing as strong and I just can't get to it? Or is it trickling now?
Right.
Do
For
you get
whatever
what
reason.
I mean?
Yes, I see. Yeah.
So
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
Well, let me play that role.
I'm hoping you've got some answers. But yeah, and I think too, perhaps it's something that I think maybe like when you say that I had a lot of confidence or a lot of self-belief back then, I think perhaps what you're recognizing is that you don't necessarily see it in other people. So
Yeah.
other people, they might have had a lot of confidence in maybe if they were, I don't know, in something that they were doing, like playing football, or they may have had a lot of confidence in how they carried themselves in their part-time job or something. I'm just thinking about when we were young.
Yep.
But in terms of what, like a self-belief in where they were headed and not what their life was going to look like, but just, where
what
they
they
were,
wanted
the path
to
that they had
do.
chosen. A lot of people, rightly so, had no idea really
No,
what they
that's
were going to
right.
do, or because they
Yeah.
sort of got into uni and thought, well, I'll just work it out from there. Whereas I always knew, like long before high school even, what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And then it was just a matter of not letting people talk me out of it, I suppose.
Well, definitely. And I mean, for context, when we met, I was just about to head into year 11, so which is the second last year of high school here in Melbourne or in Victoria, I guess. And you were a year or so after high school. So we're talking about a period of life where a lot of my friends going through year 11 and 12, you're picking your subjects, you're trying to figure out what uni course you might want to do, what career path you might want to go down. No one really seemed to know too much. Like they'd be like, oh, I'm quite like maths, maybe accounting, I don't know. No one seemed to have a super clear, like 100% direction. And then a lot of your friends.
Which is probably healthy.
Well, it sucked, you know.
It did suck that you were sort of under pressure to work it all out so that you could choose the right uni course.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of people that would then be in this position of going, well, I thought I'd enjoy being a chiropractor, but I hate the course.
4 years into the course.
Or I don't want to do it. But yet I worked all my subjects out during VC to get into this course, and it was hard to get into. And so, yeah.
Yeah. So there was a lot of that going on with our friends, and like your friends were 2-3 years older than my friends. So they just had to go through that. You know, you'd all just completed high school, everyone's starting uni or jobs, and no one really seemed to know what they wanted to do or who they wanted to be nearly as strongly as you. Like you were definitely that person. Like you were a musician, that's who you were, and was very talented and had this incredible skill. You're writing songs, you played guitar so well and could sing. Like it was so much a part of you that of course that's what you decided. Like it wasn't like you'd gone, I'm going to be an astronaut. One of these days they'll see my dreams of rockets.
Just reminded me, I remember there's weird little things are done like in year 11 and year 12, like who's going to be this and who's. I remember I got voted for my year level the person most likely to become famous. And for years I really feel like I've let the cohort down.
I'm sorry.
Such a weight on my shoulders.
Okay. Well, maybe if we Google you, you would come up with the, I don't know, most clicks on your name.
Delusional. I mean, you've seen some photos of me back then. I'm not sure how we even hooked up. I mean, there's a photo of me sitting on a couch, an old couch that was probably dragged in to the house from the side of the road, and somehow the pants I was wearing matched perfectly to it, blended in. I just looked like a torso sitting on this couch. I was like, what was I wearing? It's, you know what the pants look like? You know when you see like an old lady's quilted, like
it was curtains essentially.
a rug or something, and they've quilted a blanket from just like odds and ends that they found like
Yeah.
in their
And
cupboard.
that was both your pants and your couch.
Pants and couch. Yeah,
Wow.
what an idiot.
Well, I mean, in answer to your question, like how did we like your
Famous
fashion?
for something, famous for looking like a complete moron. Famous
Your
for having
fashion
no
was
fashion sense
questionable.
whatsoever.
Yeah,
Oh,
but so your self belief
I'm a mission kid.
in
all
what
right?
you wanted
can't
to
forget
do that got you across the line of the dates. Like you were like, I'm a musician. That's it. And I was like, oh, I'm interested.
Oh, I
So
see.
there you go. Yeah, if it had it been just on pants alone, you wouldn't have got the second date.
Just remember your friend Michelle out in the bay saying, "Oh, I've got a friend. Do you want to meet her?" And I'd learnt by that ripe old age of 19 not to sound too eager or keen because that never worked for me in the past. So I was like, "Yeah, whatever." And she goes, "Oh, what did she say?" She goes, "Oh, you'll like her. She's blonde or something like that." What did she tell you about me?
Well, the fact that you played guitar or that you were a musician, she said, I've met these two boys, well, which I could obviously see because you guys had been throwing the tennis ball to each other, but obviously missing so that the ball got closer and closer to Michelle and I. But I'd gone up out of the water
overt.
to come and read my book on the beach. And but yeah, she mentioned that you played guitar or that you were a musician.
go.
So you made me put down my book, get up off my towel.
Imagine if I was a drummer, we would never have hooked up.
Yeah. Well, for more context, at the time I played guitar and was about to face down VCE
For
music.
more context, I ended up being your guitar teacher.
Yeah, later on. So
Your dad must have felt so bad writing checks to me.
Well, it's only because my other guitar teacher left, I think, and ditched me like halfway through year 12. That sucked.
I had a
And
music.
spoiler, I no longer play guitar and I was not ever destined to be the musician that Lyndon here sits before you as.
I had a music teacher, and this was for year 12. So the school I went to, you had to do, and you already know this, so I'm just saying this for anyone listening.
Benefits of our listeners.
Yeah. So me being right into music and knowing that I wanted to be a musician at my school for VCE, which is like your certificate for completing year 12. So it's a big deal. We had, if you're into music, you had to do music by correspondence. There was actually no music class. And back then you had to do, if you wanted to do guitar, you had to do classical guitar. Anyway, so the music teacher at the time, at some point in the year, he says to me, "When's your exams?" As in like your practical performance exams.
Right. So your big final year 12 exam.
On classical guitar, and I had to do it at the Conservatorium of Music in Melbourne, so in the city.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
It was a big deal. And he's like, "Oh, when's your exam?" And I said, 2 weeks ago.
No.
That's how much nurturing I got
Some teacher.
for music in
my
year 12.
gosh.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Anywho, so self-belief.
Self-belief, and you did have it.
I had it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is different to confidence because I've never really been a confident person, but I know that I've had self-belief and I've had to have self-belief as well. And I think if I look back on my life and look at different things that I've done and the decisions that I've made, it took self-belief and courage to do it. And like I would probably look at things and go, well, that didn't work out, and that wasn't as successful as I wanted it to be. And there's always different ways that you can look at things, and I'd beat myself up about different things. But still, it took self-belief to actually to do it and to keep doing it.
Yeah.
But I think it has got more elusive as years have gone on, and it is something that you would think should. Well, wouldn't you think the natural arc of it would be that you'd get better at it, or you'd have more of it, or you'd be more like, what? Do you know what I mean? Like,
right, you'd be more sure of yourself and your purpose, I suppose, or your direction. Possibly, yeah.
And I think this is like the self-belief thing is, yeah, like that analogy I had before of it being like a river that's flowing. So I think it's there all along. It's just how far have you wandered from it, or how many trees have you planted in the meantime that are now disrupting your view of that river.
Okay.
Because it's different to, like, say, if I'm doing a gig, so performing, I make a point of telling myself before I get up on stage that I'm worthy to be there, that my best is good enough, and that I know what I'm doing.
Yep.
Like, I give myself a little pep talk.
Yeah.
And the reason I do that is so that the audience gets the best from me.
Yep.
And I've found that it's interesting. It's not that if I don't do that, I won't play well, but I don't want to be taken by surprise by negative thoughts that enter my head. So if I haven't prepared intentionally by giving myself that pep talk, then when I get up on stage and I just start playing, things can just be entering my head that have no place at that time.
Yes. Okay.
That sort of derail me to a point. And like, I always know that my 80% in that situation is still gonna be fine. Like,
Yeah,
it's still
of
gonna be
course.
good.
Yeah.
But I don't want to give 80%.
Yeah.
And like, when I'm playing, I want to get off stage and feel like I did a great job.
Yep.
So I just give myself this little pep talk. So there's like, that's normal. Like, it's normal for people that have been performers their entire life to still get nervous before they get on stage, and they rely on that nervous energy, or even, to have anxiety about the performance. Like, that's normal, but that's different to this self-belief of your purpose and what you're put on earth to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is an interesting thing to talk about and to ponder.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I don't know whether it's been anything that you've ever thought about.
Yeah, maybe not in the same terms. I don't think, like, I always liked writing and hoped that I'd be a writer someday or whatever, but I was never like out of the gate, that's me. And I'd done a few different things along the way of different avenues I've taken and so on. I was studying drama at one point and different things like that. So I wasn't ever as convicted and sure of my identity in that thing, I guess, that you always were. And I think, yeah, certainly early on in our marriage, when I was still figuring things out of what I wanted to do and the future that I could envisage for myself, I definitely saw myself as like supporting you in like that pursuit of being a musician, and obviously there was so much that went with that, of getting your name out there and doing different gigs, and could we afford to, like, for you to put out an album and things like that. So yeah, definitely felt like I was part of like who I was supporting you in that thing. Yeah, I don't know, self-belief and confidence. I haven't spent a lot of time thinking about the distinctions between those things. And I think I've grown in confidence over the years, especially once I had kids. It's like, you become a mum, you can tell anyone off and you can essentially do anything. I think that's what happens. You just find this confidence in being able to say, nah, this is what is going to happen right now.
You were telling people off long before you were a mum.
Okay,
I remember when we
right.
were going around Australia, you told me off and threatened to walk home, and we were like basically camped on the Great Australian Bight.
What? Really?
Well, basically in the desert. Yeah. I can't remember exactly where we were, but I do remember, like, I had a tent which I'd had for quite a number of years, and I was telling you something like this. I was telling you the right way to go about it, and you were not happy with that.
Yeah, I did not like getting
lectured. I can't remember exactly what the problem was.
The problem was you talked to me like I was a child and like I'd never been camping before.
And yeah, so you told me off and threatened to walk back to Melbourne, which
wow, and I would have done it too.
You would have done it. It would have been a pretty good effort. You could have raised money for a children's charity on a walk like that. You would have been ahead of your time.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, all right. So I always had a bit of confidence. I always had a streak of stubbornness and like.
I hope your parents are listening. They'd be rolling their eyes.
Yeah, no doubt.
There was.
Yeah, I don't know. Have I always had confidence though? I don't know.
Well, it depends. Like,
yeah, it
you
depends
have confidence in different things.
Yeah,
you know?
I think
like
I think that's
not
it.
an overarching thing. That's why that's why confidence is a separate thing to
It's self-belief, yeah.
different thing to
Yeah.
self-belief, but it ties into it.
Yep.
Now, on a previous episode where
Mm.
you were very impressed that I had been following an author
Yes.
and I hadn't read his book, I'd just been following him on Instagram.
No,
I
don't
thought
wreck
I
it.
would now quote another author
Oh, yes.
of The War of Art, so Stephen Pressfield. And he says that self-belief doesn't vanish, but it needs to be actively fought for by choosing to do the work each day,
Oh, wow.
which is interesting because we did have
Yeah.
an episode recently about doing the work.
Yes. Yep.
And it does seem that there is this idea that, and I know that this is true, that when you're doing the work, that's when you feel the most confident, the most self-assured. You feel like, especially if you have had this self-belief,
Yeah.
there's this alignment that happens where you go, I'm doing it.
I'm doing
the thing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
there
that's
is
it.
something
It's
in that.
great,
It's
yeah.
like to actually go, just do the work.
Do the work, and that is, fighting the fight of for your self-belief and for that evolution of yourself to be completed.
Yeah, and it's like just start anywhere. I think I have a note to
Yeah.
myself here somewhere that you laminated where it says start anywhere.
I did a great job with all your laminating.
Start anywhere. It's the quickest way to quiet all those, the inner monologue and all the demons and whatever else, and to feel that connection with your self-belief. And everything that's wrapped up in that, your destiny or your purpose, or that's kind of what it does for you. It really does elevate you and make you feel good. But
Yeah.
you've just got to start. And that quote that I love from Austin Kleon, it doesn't matter if it's great right now, it just has to exist.
Yeah.
Is a really good one as well.
Yeah, to getting started and
To just getting started.
Just getting started, and the idea that the doing is where the self-belief is enacted. I like that.
And I don't know if you've heard of the poet and activist Maya Angelou.
Oh, yes. Of her.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, we've got, I know why the caged bird sings.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's been sitting on our bookcase
Okay.
forever.
Well,
And I love that.
She says that over time, self-confidence can become quieter and less about proving ourselves and more about understanding our worth,
Yeah.
which is a very powerful, heavy,
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack.
a lot of
in
wisdom in that.
Yeah.
She also says we often come to rely on a quieter, deeper self-confidence, something beyond the ambition of youth.
Yeah.
And so
Yep.
that's partly perhaps why when you're younger, or when I was younger, it wasn't just about having a self-belief, and it wasn't just that there were less responsibilities of life, less things to sort of get in the way and hinder that, but it's a different kind of self-belief. It's a different kind of confidence. It's the ambition of youth.
Yeah.
And being able to see a path forward and go, well, that's the path I'm going on, regardless of the obstacles. And the other thought too that I had about this is when I was younger and in that frame of mind, I had my whole life ahead of me.
Yeah.
So you get cautioned by people and you're like, yeah, that's cool. I've got my whole life to work it out.
Yeah.
You're even kind of acutely aware that you're probably going to make mistakes. It's like, that's all right. I've got time to keep moving on from those.
That's right. You don't realize how time will corral you as you go along, and
Yeah.
how
And for me,
quickly
I
it passes.
I would have had no idea how much like rejection or how much like certain roadblocks and things like that would have affected me, like how long it would take me to sort of pick myself up and keep going. So
Yeah.
you don't have any of that sort of experience. So
That's
you're not
right.
quite sure how you're going to respond to different challenges that come along. So
Absolutely.
you kind of need that ambition driving you. It kind of goes hand in hand with the
absolutely.
self-belief.
Well, if you don't have that, then how do you pick yourself up from the very first roadblock, the very first thing that makes you question yourself or stumble? Like, you've got to have that inner something driving you along. So, yeah, that self-belief, it might be that very beginning form of, like you said, youthful ambition. But it's a very strong force that will get you through all those early experiences that can really knock you flat.
I was listening to Alicia Keys talk the other day. You know, she's won 16 Grammys.
16.
16.
She's amazing, yeah.
That is incredible.
She's incredible.
Yeah, so Alicia Keys was saying that at some point she had to give herself permission to be great.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
And
really
I mean,
interesting.
and clearly she's talented and she knew how talented she was, but she had to give herself that permission to be great because she realized that no one else was going to give her that permission. She had to give it to herself.
Wow.
Because when she goes out there, she wants to be as great as she can be. And it's like so this is someone who's, won 16 Grammys, among other things. I think she's written a play for Broadway. So she's got many strings to her bow, and she would still have all those doubts dogging her before she'd get on stage. And she would still be able to give a great show. Like, it's Alicia Keys.
Yeah.
But she wanted to give her best.
Yeah.
And be her best. And so that's what she did. She gave herself permission to be great. So she's about self-belief as an act of empowerment. Or, well, that is, isn't it? It's an act of empowerment. A decision to stop waiting for validation. So that got me thinking too about, like, what have some other prominent musicians, like, have they said anything about this at all? And then I remember David Bowie. This quote from him comes up a lot on Instagram, actually. But he talks about walking out into the water, and he says, and when you get to where your feet or your toes are just touching the bottom, you got to go a bit further, and then that's the right spot to be.
Oh, wow.
So, like, essentially just out of your depth.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not there,
Yep.
that's where you need to be.
Yep.
So dare to step beyond your comfort zone and trust that
Where you feel
you know
like
that
you
we'll
can
find our way.
drown, but you might just swim.
Yeah. So you need self-belief to be able to do that.
Yeah, to get yourself to there. And start paddling, essentially. Yep.
Yeah. If I think about all the musicians that I like and people that are undeniably great, like David Bowie and Prince and Alicia Keys and Neil Finn, they, to be great, that's what they've had to do. They've had to kind of not settle for being comfortable. Like, it's just not an option.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think that's a really good analogy.
That is a good point, yeah.
And interestingly enough, with Prince, his self-belief was tied very closely to his identity as an artist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was inseparable from his artistic identity. And, you hear people saying, be true to yourself and all that kind of stuff. I don't think anyone could kind of say that Prince wasn't being true to himself.
No. Well,
So that's interesting that that's how he thought about it. Self-belief wasn't just a thing that he needed to sort of keep moving his art forward, but it was intrinsic to how he saw himself as an artist.
Yeah. Very interesting, yeah. Yeah, I do recall watching some interviews with him, especially early on in his career, and he was really quite belligerent in some ways. He didn't want to play the game of the interview style or anything like that. Like, he was there to show up and do his work, and he's obviously someone who had excruciatingly high performance standards and all of that. He wanted everything to be just right, and it absolutely was an expression of himself. Obviously, his style, his musical style, his even fashion and all of that, it was such a out there kind of art form, like promoting yourself as the thing, I suppose, as the artist. And yeah, it was all entwined and interlinked. So yeah, it's interesting how even that self-belief is linked to his identity in himself.
Yeah, I know, it really is. The question is, I know I gave you like 6 or 7 questions right at the start, and I don't think you've answered any of them.
Sorry.
So as we age, here's another question. As we age, does self-belief become something that we need to redefine or reclaim?
Well, I would say yes, definitely redefine and reclaim, I suppose, if we've lost it, if we feel that we've lost those threads along the way, like, or as you say, we've lost sight of that river of it. Yep, get back to it for sure, because, I mean, why not for a start? But redefine, we are different creatures now to the ones we were when we were fresh out of high school. And that's just talking about you and I, but everybody develops and grows throughout their years. All sorts of things in you change. So your concept of self-belief should certainly change and develop over time. And I think it's tempting to think of when you're young and things are new and fresh to you, that's almost like the best thing. And we look back and kind of go, oh, they were the best years or the best time of our lives or whatever. Like they were somehow superior because of the burst of newness, novelty of it all. But I don't know that that's necessarily true. Like a self-belief that you rediscover, redefine, reconnect with in wherever you are in life, like your middle age or later or wherever, somewhere along the way when you've had a different job or you've kind of gotten lost in family responsibilities or something's happened along the way that you need to revisit that self-belief. I think that can be much richer for the experiences that you have outside of just that first burst of like, I believe in myself that I can do this. Yeah, I think that definitely you could benefit from redeveloping that in yourself and redefining it.
And part of that is self-compassion as well. Brene Brown talks about wholeheartedness, and so she's I was watching her doing a TED talk. She's an author and researcher, and
a very famous psychologist on this stuff. Yeah,
and she says that self-belief doesn't always mean having an unshakable confidence, but it's accepting our worthiness, and then that can ground us, because traditional self-confidence, as she puts it, can fluctuate. And the creative journey, as you and I both know, it always involves periods of doubt.
Yeah.
So you can doubt so many different things, and you can even doubt that self-belief isn't there anymore. And I don't think I was doubting it for myself. I just was like curious, what does happen? Like, does it die down or is it always there? And yeah, so Stephen Pressfield, as I mentioned him earlier, he says that it doesn't vanish, but it needs to be actively fought for.
And I would say that for those who think it's really properly been killed off, I would say resurrection is possible, because I agree. I don't think it ever that self-belief, it's still there, even if you feel like there's just so much that's buried it, literally. Yeah, it's still there.
Oh, that's good. Now you need to rush off because you got to do school pickup.
Yep.
So
time for me to go.
You better say goodbye, and I will sign off officially.
Farewell,
once you're
and
out the door.
Thank you for listening. See you next time. Bye.
Get the kids. You've been listening to Pain in the Arts. You can support the show on patreon.com. Just search for Pain in the Arts Life, or type in patreon.com/Pain in the Arts Life into your browser window. And you can also visit our website, www.paininthearts.life. There you can learn more about myself and Bree.